Okay, so let's get kicking. You know what? We start with a little bit of like warm up music.
All right. Yeah.
You got moves? You got moves?
Yeah. No, yeah. I could jam.
All right, let's go.
Is this your intro music?
I mean, it's not, but it really should be. I never do intro music. I'm going to just like move my standing desk to a standing position.
You're one of the few people that still use their standing desk. You know how many people beg their employers for standing desks and they never use it?
I use it all day long. I'm constantly alternating between sitting and standing. Highly recommend.
I could never. Just like I could probably never do 75 hard.
You can do it. You can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by a very special guest today. I have here all the way from Canada. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. Stephen Sargeant, the king of content or king of compliance content, anyways, on LinkedIn. Stephen, very excited to have you here. I never know when I'm bringing guests on if they're comfortable around the camera, if they're, gonna start stumbling when I ask them questions. But you're a pro, so I'm sure that whatever comes out of this is going to be a fun conversation. I don't have to worry about you. So welcome to the pod, man.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see how my face looks on the Beyond the Code. I love how you do those graphics. So I'm excited to see how the words go through my face. Maybe make my nose a little smaller.
All right. Duly noted. We'll mess around with your nose. I always, the first question that I have to ask you is actually one that I wasn't planning on asking you is like, how do you choose what books are behind you? Do you alternate them ever, or is it because when I always notice it when you do those like caricatures of yourself and they just come in so clearly in the background. They're always like, oh, what's the guy reading now? So yeah, how do you like set those up, or do you not mess with them? You just put stuff there and forget about it.
I mess around with them. Usually, like we'll have clients that have their reports. I'll like highlight their reports there. Okay. Usually, it's just like standard books, especially a lot of the guests that we have for our podcast are authors. So like you'll see the Breaking Banks there. I'll have the book. I'm a terrible reader. It takes me so long to read a book. So I've probably never read any of the books, but I've listened to all the audiobooks for them.
I'm also a huge Audible fan. I listen to anything that's too hard for me to read. So like all the like boring drab books that I could usually get through the first 30 pages just fine, but never can get through the rest. So I do Audible on those, but I actually have all my like crypto books up here so nobody can see them. Maybe I should reconsider like putting them here in the back somewhere.
Yeah, get them out, man. I think if I was an author and I saw my book on a random person's podcast, I would feel good.
All right. Let's write a book and I'll put it here. All right.
Deal.
Okay, so welcome to the pod. I want to talk to you about a lot of things, but as always, as is the custom on this podcast, we're going to start with just having you introduce yourself to our audience. I'm sure many of our listeners already know who you are because it's hard to ignore you. You're very loud on LinkedIn. But for those who are hearing or seeing you for the first time, please introduce yourself to the audience.
So my name is Stephen Sargeant. I have a media company called Airdropd where we focus really only on crypto compliance companies. So anyone that touches blockchain intelligence, investigations, think your Chainalysis, Nota Bene, law firms, consultancies. But I actually started back. I was a paralegal back in like 2015. And,
really?
I was asking the president of the company, like, yeah, what can I do better at my job? What can I focus on? And they're like, hey, we're buying up a lot of these check cashing and like electronic fintech companies. So you better get an understanding of fintech. So I just like started Googling podcasts on fintech. And it's funny, the podcast I host now, Around the Coin, was one of the first ones that came up. And this was when Bitcoin was like at $600. And all they were talking about was blockchain and Bitcoin. I'm African American in Canada. Nobody I hung up with had ever talked about that. And you just go down like, oh, why are these people talking about such a unique technology and how it's going to change the world? And I just kept on listening to podcast after podcast. And I was like, I don't want to be a paralegal anymore. I want to get into crypto. So I'd actually emailed the podcast host, like, hey, how can I get into crypto? And he gave me a list. He responded in like 10 minutes, giving me a list of all the things I could do, getting my, compliance certificate, ACAMs, documenting the process, which is how I got an agency today, was I was always documenting how I was learning. And then I was always posting on LinkedIn about crypto and AML. And when Bitfinex were looking to hire their first AML investigator, I was the first person that popped in their mind. I worked at one of the largest exchanges for 5 years, and they run fairly lean. So I got to do a lot of things and wear a lot of different hats. And I realized, like, hey, if I keep on posting, but I post for companies, I can get them a lot more engagement, get a lot more thoughtful discussion and turn them into thought leaders on places like LinkedIn. And that's when I decided. My wife's like, hey, you can quit your job if you get one contract. I'd sent Chainalysis a 20-minute video about all the things I thought I could do for them. And like 13 seconds of that video mentioned the podcast. And they're like, hey, we would want a podcast. And the rest is history.
Oh wow. So you produced a podcast for Chainalysis?
Yeah, over the last 4 years, we just ended it at the end of last year. But for four
I've seen their
years, we had
podcast.
one
It's
of
pretty
the
good. What's it called again?
Public Key was the name of their
Public Key. Yeah,
podcast.
that was really well produced. So that was you.
Yeah, that was us, man. That was our agency.
Awesome. So
We
that was
work with companies now, but like that was our favorite one. Weekly. It's hard to do, as you know, it's hard to do a weekly podcast
yeah.
with such a large enterprise, but that was a fun one.
But you had your own podcast for a while also, right?
Yeah, during the pandemic, I created a podcast. We were on a break. I used the whole Ross Friends
Ross and
theme
Rachel, obvious.
because I was talking to people like you, right? And I was like, oh, these are really good conversations, especially it's the pandemic. You're just talking to a lot of industry experts, figuring out what to do, how to navigate the industry. I was like, oh, these are good conversations. Other people would probably learn a lot from these as well. And that's when I launched that podcast as well.
Brilliant. Okay, so basically you were a compliance guy and you're like, I love compliance. I'm writing about what I'm doing. People are interested in what I'm writing about. I'm just going to go all in on telling stories basically around compliance. But you also probably had some pretty cool stories yourself. I know, like, I've had a little bit of exposure to what it looks like behind the scenes working on a compliance team in an exchange. You probably saw some crazy stories, what with like hacks and other like crazy on-chain analytics. Like a lot of people don't know really what it looks like behind the chain, right? Take us a little bit into what those 5 years were like working at Bitfinex, and like what kind of like crazy stories you were exposed to. And I know that sometimes it could be a little bit drab to do blockchain analytics, but it's actually really cool for like normies who don't do that every day, all day. So give us a little bit of the glory.
Blockchain analytics is so fun because you have to use these really powerful tools. I'm a visual person, so when you can literally see crypto money,
Coming
move
in,
in the
going out.
flow of funds, that's really like I'm visual, so I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. So when we started, it was 2018. So like, think Bitfinex, one of the largest exchanges. They're probably getting like a few law enforcement requests, which was my job to work with law enforcement to handle the investigations that they were sending to us. And you think of now, look at like Binance has like 47,000 law enforcement requests a year, and we were dealing with just a few a week. So you can see how much the industry has matured. But more importantly, we worked very closely with law enforcement, but law enforcement was also new to crypto investigations too. So, they would give us a lot more information. We would help them with their investigations as
Mm-hmm.
well. And even not even so much at Bitfinex, but if you worked at any exchange back at that time, when, there's huge Quadriga's CX goes down and they're looking for the founder and, all these things, they're touching all of these exchanges. You're seeing, kidnappings with ransom and asking for $10 million worth of Monero, which makes no sense because there wasn't even that much Monero in the in the ecosystem. And it's kind of cool because you're speaking to law enforcement over the phone who are giving you like, hey, this is what the real is going on. So you got to see a lot of the big darknet market cases, get shut down. It was really, obviously I can't go into details about specific investigations, but like you were on the front lines, especially with Bitfinex operating internationally and being one of the bigger exchanges. Anything that you saw in the news probably touched whether it was Bitfinex, Coinbase, Binance, one of the big exchanges, and you were involved in those investigations. The good thing though, like if you work in traditional compliance or even like in the legal field and you're listening to this, you're like, okay, I filed a SAR, I filed a report about this suspicious activity. You don't hear anything for like a decade, maybe 5, 6 years away. When you're providing investigation and intel to law enforcement, like you would see arrests like within months, and you're like, oh, I
Wow.
had something to do with that. Especially if it's crypto, because the media always wanted to put every single story out there. Like, look at crypto, it's so bad. So you used to see a lot of the fruits of your labor right away, which was like actually a really cool part of being a part of a compliance team at a crypto exchange.
Tell me what it was like from like a community perspective. Like it was probably a much tighter knit group of compliance individuals on a global scale. You had less exchanges. Some of them were less prone to, building out big compliance teams. Like, what was it like you coming in? I don't know how big your team was at Bitfinex, but like, what types of collaboration did you have at other exchanges? Like, if you didn't know what you were doing, like, what tools did you have to draw on to figure shit out? Like, you didn't have AI and you didn't have Stephen Sargeant like going around with Airdropd telling people like this is how you grow and excel in this industry.
And there's a lot of blockchain analytics tools. I would say though, at that time, we heavily relied on Chainalysis. So Chainalysis had their team. They used to, we used to train our team. So we were, doing the certificates before they were actually consumer certificates. We relied heavily on their expertise and other companies as well. I would say the crypto compliance community is probably the most welcoming community because nobody got there by fluke. Although enthusiasm at my time was like the barrier to entry, it was a lot of work, right? You're working 12, 16-hour shifts. If you're working in law enforcement, you have to call Germany to bet that that's an actual law enforcement agent. So you're waking up at the crack of dawn, going to sleep. There wasn't these massive teams that had global operations for the most part, or a lot of compliance officers. And it felt like we're all kind of learning as we go. Obviously, there was experts in the industry, like Melanie LaFave is one that sticks out that would really kind of break down some serious investigation techniques. But the industry was so small, and I think even now today, it's still very small about the people that have been in the industry for a long time and actually contribute to the industry when it comes to like helping out others with investigations.
Okay, so you're at Bitfinex, and then at what point do you decide like I'm going all in on Airdropd?
It was, there was a time where like, and this is it's funny because this was a funny story is that there when I was at Bitfinex, I was like, oh, this is really great. I know what I'm doing, but it wasn't so much of a challenge. And when you're starting out in the industry, like 5 years goes by, you're seeing a lot of blockchain investigators. This is high time. You think 2021 and 2022, a lot of investigators are making a lot of money. You're like, hey, they're making way more than me. I'm like, okay, I could probably parlay my experience and get a really good job. But I was like, I still want to do the content. So I actually went out to hire two people to help me on the content, personal content side. So I was like, hey, I could probably get double my salary now if I really wanted to go out there in the market. And I was like, I'll use those funds to hire these two people and they can help the content and the personal brand engine continue. During that time I met with them was when I just kind of fired off the video, the Chainalysis. I was like, hey, I can be your like community crypto lead. Like I can manage all the fun things that you have going on in the industry. But when they came back with like, hey, we wanted to do the podcast, I was working with another organization as a crypto trainer for Chainalysis. And I
Okay.
knew they liked working with corporate organizations. So I'm like, they're never going to hire me as an individual. So the next day, as soon as they showed interest, the next day I went and registered my company. And so I really had no intentions of starting a business actually, but I registered my company. And at that point, afterwards, I think they would have cared less whether I was a one person or a corporation. But that's actually how the business started. Was I
Wow.
registered the company so I could work with them, and then once my wife's like, "Hey, if you get one contract," and that seemed like a big contract until you do the math of how much you're actually paying your staff. I
Yeah.
was probably losing money at some stages of each podcast we produced. But once I had them as a contract, it was just about going out there and trying to get more clients.
And then like you started hiring people, like it's a proper like tell me a little bit about Airdropd. What does it look like? What kind of services do you guys provide? Who are your main clientele? How big are you? What were the challenges kind of in growing the team and sustaining the team and scaling the team?
When I look at companies today and like we're all like, Apple just laid off 10,000 people and Google just, and like you all have this like, you have such a, oh, they don't know what they're doing and they hire, like, it is so hard to hire people and build a company. Like, I would never have thought how hard it was. We have about 3 to 4, I'd say, people, like a couple full time employees, a couple contractors where we get like huge contracts and we need to pound out a ton of content. We really focus on three things: strategy, where like, hey, you're in crypto compliance, you're not getting too much engagement, you're
Yeah.
competing with the likes of Chainalysis. Let us help you create a marketing strategy using content. Then the second pillar is like we actually create the content for you. I think we're one of the best at like engaging people, but not in the TikTok way, but still getting the eyeballs to look at the content for the clients. And then the last thing is distribution. because like I'm an influencer in this industry, if I post about your company, you're going to get a lot more eyeballs than you posting about your own company. So we kind of tie those three things in to help companies. So like Chainalysis with the podcast, Nota Bene when they were, doing their own in-person conferences. We work with like Asset Reality, Cat Labs, anyone that's really entering the industry or looking to raise funds, and they're like, hey, we want eyeballs, but we want to do it in like a thought leadership way, not in like, you have to think these companies are going after six-figure contracts. They can't do Google ads or they can't run Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads. If you're not really doing organic on LinkedIn, it's just a waste of money. So we really help them navigate the space. And because we're working with so many of these organizations that overlap, I think our agency has the most context. And I've worked in the field. So if you're selling a blockchain analytics tool, well, I know the decision making process inside an exchange. So I can actually help your sales team. And I can help your marketing team. Like, this is what they actually care about. Where I think a lot of marketers in crypto don't necessarily know that much about crypto, but they know even less about like crypto compliance and blockchain investigation. So that's where I'm able to support some of these marketing teams. They'll still do their email campaigns and all that good stuff, but I'll come in and substitute with like good content and actual like strategy that might be able to help them.
What was that whole little like, I'm an influencer? Did I sense a little bit of imposter syndrome there?
No, I just think like I don't know why I hate the word influencer. Even like
Okay, you're
content
not
creator has
you're
like
not an
this
influencer. You're a KOL.
OnlyFans type vibe to it. I don't mind honestly. Like to be an influencer in any industry, like obviously a lot of these things, like how do you rank somebody's engagement on LinkedIn? Like there are numbers. I think I respect what I do. Don't get me wrong. I think you're an influencer as well, and you're right. But like I don't go out there like, hey, I'm gonna make content and then I'm gonna get these brand deals. Like that's what I think of like influencer ish type stuff. I'm like, hey, how can I put out all my ideas and all my clients' ideas out there that people actually care about it? But I have also been consistent for a long time. So I do take very good pride in the work that we've done because it's harder to keep it up. It's one that once you're on the hamster wheel, right? If I get off tomorrow and I stop doing content, my business would probably go away because I don't have the distribution. And B, I'm like kind of irrelevant to the industry. So it's like once you're on that hamster wheel, it's kind of hard to stay on and do it sustainably without burning out. So I'm definitely proud on the fact that I'm able to kind of do what I love doing, do it consistently. And I'm still just like you. We're in the service business, so there's still that element where you have to take care of
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. So when I was, I guess a junior lawyer, I was very eager to learn. I was very eager, just generally, okay? But very eager to learn. I knew that I knew nothing, and I knew that I also had to like move fast because working in like a big firm, it's a very competitive place, and I wanted to meet everybody and just like ask them questions. So my dad had a friend who was like a big partner in like a top global firm, and I asked him if he'd meet me for lunch, and we met for lunch in Tel Aviv. He was very kind. He, gave me like an hour of his time, and he knew that I was already like pretty active on LinkedIn at the time. This was like, I don't know, almost 10 years ago. And he's like, he also is like a bit of a LinkedIn personality. He's like, the best advice I can give you is lose your platform to raise others up, right? Like use your posts as an opportunity to shine the spotlight on somebody else, and by doing that you'll inadvertently to some extent, like some of your positive qualities will come through as well, and it's a good way to generate attention. And I think you're really good at doing that. Like a lot of your content is very clearly focused on putting the spotlight on other people and their positive attributes, and by doing that, obviously you're not losing out at all. So I wanted to just like give you credit where credit is due. Obviously, thank you for mentioning me every now and then in that way, kind way that you do, and just kind of like ask you, I guess for other people who are listening out there, I think specifically in the crypto community, I know that you come more from the compliance side and less from the crypto side, but a lot of people in the crypto community have been shitting on LinkedIn forever. And, it's all about crypto Twitter, crypto Twitter, crypto Twitter. And now with all the changes that are happening in the Twitter algorithm, I keep seeing more and more of these like crypto influencers that are slowly coming over and like unabashedly writing like, I discovered LinkedIn, I'm gonna create more content here.
Yeah, I
So
love the announcements too. Like, look at
yeah,
what
it's like,
look at the
I'm
gem
here,
I
guys.
found, and we're like, okay, buddy.
My favorite one was Snoop Dogg. Like a year ago, he wrote like, I'm gonna be on LinkedIn all the time now, write great content. I don't know who wrote that on his behalf, but he was like steady for a while. No, but there are a lot of crypto influencers, all joking aside, who are really like moving over to LinkedIn. And regardless of what you and I think about them, because I think you probably have similar thoughts to I do, what what I guess what tips could you give them as somebody who's been doing this for a long time and doing it pretty well, to kind of how to find their footing in the world of LinkedIn?
I love this question. First, I want to just talk about like the right. Like, I'm very biased when it comes to like shining the light on people. I know it seems like such a selfless act, but if you really notice, it's all about people that are creating. I'm such a creative person. I love creating. That when I see other people creating, the best thing that feels good to me as a creator is when people compliment or say nice things about what I'm building. So if I think it was at the start of last year, I'm like, every chance I get, I'm gonna let people know I see what they're doing and I appreciate it. Even if we're having a conversation, someone mentions your name, I'm gonna leave you a voice note and be like, "Hey, Jim just talked about you. He said nothing but nice things. Just thought I would let you know." Because that to me is like the hardest thing. As you create a podcast, when someone says, "Hey, I listened to episode 40 and this was so good," like that just feels good that someone's recognizing your work. And I feel there's a lot of people, yourself included, that do it without the purpose of becoming famous or making tons of money through brand deals or even business opportunities. You're just putting out great content, and I like to highlight those people because a lot of those people will never highlight themselves because they're just like me. They're just creators. So to your point, I love using my platform to be like, hey guys, look over here. Like, if you think I'm good, this person is doing way better than me and I love what they're doing. They're not going to talk about how good they are, so let me talk about how good they are. And that feels good, right? I love that. And that's just the way my brain works when I see someone doing something creative. And then the second thing I would say for people trying to come over to LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the worst platform for intentionally trying to get in attention or it's the worst platform for that. It is the best platform, I think, for people like me that are being creative. We're expressing ourselves because the business will be a byproduct of that. The money will be I built my whole business on LinkedIn, but it's a byproduct of what I do. I think the biggest mistake is every year I get a voice note, and I should be able to play some of them by now. Hey, Stephen, just letting you know I'm coming on LinkedIn. I'm going to eat your food. Watch out for me. But I never get
Do
a
you really
message at
get
the end of the
messages
year
like
saying,
that?
hey, Stephen, look at me. I ate your food, because LinkedIn is so hard if you're looking for instant validation, if you're looking for instant jobs, instant revenue. It's such a hard platform, but it's also why I love it. Because I know when everyone's salesperson's using Sales Navigator and they're sending a bunch of automated messages, I'm going to go through 400 connections and leave a personal voice note for each one of them because I love that stuff. I love the way that doesn't scale for a lot of the people coming on the platform.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest takeaway for anyone listening to this podcast is LinkedIn is a value piggy bank. You're only going to be able to take out of it what you
What you
put
put
into
in,
it.
for sure.
And I love that. It's such a fair, that's why LinkedIn is so broken, but that's why I love the platform because it's hard to hack LinkedIn to
Yeah.
get, like, you can get views and like, I can go on LinkedIn right now and say, hey, I took a chance and hired Yitzi, even though I hired Yitzi and he had no experience and now he's the CEO of my company. And I'll get thousands, hundreds of thousands of, way to go, way to take a chance on that. Because that's what the LinkedIn algorithm is for, right? People that are probably frustrated on LinkedIn looking for jobs because it isn't the best job platform. But
Yeah.
you can go viral, but that's not going to help you. Nobody's going to buy Airdrop products because I just got 100,000 views on that post. And I think people get trapped. They struggle to be consistent because they're not getting that instant feedback. And the only way they're going to get that feedback is also engaging in other people's content, which people don't have the time to do. People want to spend the least amount of time on LinkedIn as possible,
Yeah.
but get the most amount of value. And I think that's where it's hard. But I get it because, like, yo, I left a comment on crypto Twitter. I left a comment on somebody's Instagram. And to see 100 people like my random comment, I'm like, yo, this feels kind of good. So I get why people are trolls and why people are just leaving nonsense and mean comments because it kind of feels good on a dopamine level to get so much engagement
Yeah.
for something that took me 10 seconds to create.
So what are your thoughts on like all the AI content? Because like it just feels like so much of what I'm seeing now is like generic, clearly generated. Like people aren't even like taking the time to try and add a personal touch to content that they originally generated on AI. They're just like spitting it out and posting it. Like it almost feels like even people who are not bots, it just feels like you're talking to a bot. Like A, what are your thoughts on that? B, I know I'm sure you use AI as well, partially in your creation and distribution. Like how are you using it in a way without losing the personal feel as well?
I love the AI slop. I think it's good. The more people take shortcuts, the better I get on LinkedIn. We've gotten more, like we've seen more AI slop in the last year, in the last 6 months. My engagement has never been higher because I know now people are coming to read my posts because they know I'm intentional. They know I'm going to put thought into it. And they know I'm going to give them context that AI can't give you. So if I read a 340-page FATF report, I'm going to find nuances there. And AI is going to be great. It's going to summarize it better than I ever could. But there's no context.
Right.
It's just like if
Right.
you're working out without weights, it's like you're only going to get so big. And I feel like I'm adding the weights to people to make them stronger, to make them understand more. So the more people use AI, the better my business will do. Where I like to use AI is like, hey, I have this really great thought, but I don't want to spend the next 14 minutes on Canva designing a picture. So why not just make my face look funny in the Muppets? Like I'll use AI a lot for that. I use AI in the background to organize my LinkedIn DMs because I'm doing so much engagement and because I like to follow up with people. It's so hard to do that if you're just going through the natural LinkedIn messaging platform. Although the search field in LinkedIn is probably the better than any other social media platform. So I can organize all my, like, let's just say I have all the podcast hosts I love talking to. I can just put a label on you as a podcast host and then go back into that group and be like,
Interesting.
okay, these are the 14 podcast hosts. Let me reach out to them, see if they want to do like some mega episode or something crazy like that. And for business, it's like, hey, this person inquired about my business. Let me tag them so I don't lose them when I talk about Binance and I get
Interesting.
1,400 messages that, Binance is the worst and I'm an idiot for not saying that they're the worst, etc.
Okay, actually, I wasn't going to ask you about this, but you just reminded me. Okay, touching on the fact that you've been able to be like super kind on the platform, right? There's this dude who's like this like mega troll. I don't even know. I don't really get what his whole story is. Like he's just been ripping on a lot of friends of mine in the compliance industry over the last few months, and like I'm not involved at all. I just keep seeing it out of the corner of my eye. And I recently reached out to one of them and I said, like, what's this dude's deal? And he's like, I don't know. I think he's like mentally unstable or something. He's like really like coming hard at me for no reason. And I saw you recently had like a run in with him, but you came out unscathed. Like he was joking with you. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I could say his name.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
Rich? Rich?
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. What's the deal there?
It's hard for me to say. So the person that you're talking about, Richard, I believe Richard Sanders is the person you're talking about. It's funny because when I was doing investigations at Bitfinex, there was a company. One of them is our clients now. So Rich and this other guy, Paul, they had a company. I think it was called Cypher. I want to say it was Cypher Blade at the time. They branched out and they started their own thing. Crypto forensic investigators. I'm still friendly with Paul. He's one of our clients. We create really great content together.
Mm-hmm.
Rich has always been that. I even joke with them and send him a message like, "You're just a nutball, Rich." Like, and to be quite honest, if you're in crypto, you're a little bit nutty. And I love characters. I know I'm a character, so I have no problem calling other people's like characters.
Okay. Yeah.
He's just always been a character, right? He's also the person that if you're like using a blockchain intelligence tool and there's a feature where you can add your own notes. Like if you go through that tool, it's only that one person. There's like three people that always leave notes. He's just one of those people. He's so dedicated. He's so focused. I don't necessarily get and understand where he's coming from. I usually try to come from a neutral place. Like I'll talk about Binance, but I'm not going to be like they're the scum of the earth when half of the industry relies on income that's generated through Binance. So like, let's just relax, everybody. Like Binance is bad, compliance is bad. Well, then just stop it. Tell your exchange to stop interacting with them. Oh, you would lose your job. Okay, then let's just at least agree they're bad, but we're just as bad for contributing it because we want to pad our own pockets and go on vacation a couple of times a year. So let's not throw the stones too hard. We can
Yeah.
say they're bad, but let's not act like they're demons and we're so holier than thou when the exchange that we work for still engages with Binance and they need to in order to generate revenue to run the business. And
Yeah.
I think that's why I might come out unscathed in a lot of the situations. I'm not here to say I'm just like, hey, this is my experience with this organization. But I'm also what I think is like, I'm also very realistic on like, hey guys, we can't just crap on them too much. We're part of the
We're
problem.
all
And I think
part of the
when I
same.
bring out those points, you're going to get people that are like, Steven, you give them a pass. And like, yeah, but you kind of work for a bank. So like your bank does more in, like leveraging money laundering through its institution than that Binance does.
But
And
you have a
I'm
bigger
all in
compliance
agreement
department so
that
that they
if they
could.
have no compliance program, forget jail, just like shut them down. But
Right.
like, we're not going to do that. And, when FTX was in trouble and Binance was going to help them out, I saw zero posts about people talking about Binance's compliance program. I saw a lot of people begging for CZ to take over FTX so they wouldn't lose money on FTX. So it's like it's like the industry is like a fun dichotomy. It's just kind of like politics. We all take these sides,
Never
but
a
it's like
dull moment.
everyone's taking from the coffers, guys. So like, why are we so anal about like bastardizing certain companies or presidents when we're all on the payroll in some way? Let's just agree we're all on the payroll and see how we can all do better as an industry.
Oh, I like that. Be the bigger man. Okay, very nice. Nicely handled. Nicely handled. I thought I put you on the spot there, but you just like.
I'm a little bit of a troll too. See, so when I see people commenting, I did 12 years of debt collections. Like I was collecting, for those of you that are old, I was collecting people that were making 1-900 calls on their phone bills, and I was collecting on behalf of 1-900 numbers. So there's nothing that anyone can, and I kind of grew up in like, maybe not the hood of all hoods, but like we were in like, you're not going to be able to talk to me on LinkedIn from a professional setting, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, I got punked. I'm a troll too, so I kind of like a little bit of the trolling. I think the people that are getting trolled right now, and they're doing way better than I could do. And those same people that are like, hey, like just try to ignore it as much as possible. They'll reach out to me and say, hey, you're going a little too far over here. Like pull back a little. Like don't engage with that person and get yourself in trouble. You're too classy or you're better than that. So I respect those people. And as I said, there's always going to be a narrative in the industry. And this is why our business is in place. Because like if you're a forensic investigation firm that recovers funds for victims, you're going to get a bad reputation when Operation Shamrock is like all recovery services are scams. So I come in and explain, hey, this is why they're different. These are the things they actually do. And by the way, they want to, they're anti-pig butchering as much as the next person. So that's where I come in to help these companies like
soften the blow,
make their own narrative.
Interesting. Okay, so let's go back to compliance. You're, well, not you, but like a potential person is, fresh off the boat, new CLO in a company, or not CLO, chief compliance officer, okay, or just head of compliance because there's no officer position yet, and maybe they're a new exchange or a new DeFi protocol, or I don't know what, somebody who's got significant regulatory risk and exposure, and you gotta build these processes internally and kind of like find your footing. What are the top 10 things that you could say to this person as like somebody who's like been there, done that, and is creating and writing the Bible for anybody in this industry?
I would say first, if you're getting that position and
first
you don't
follow me on LinkedIn.
yeah, like first join my community at Stan Store. I would say if you're like really new, like we've seen this a lot. You get a couple years blockchain investigation experience, and then some random DeFi or NFT ICO project wants you to be their chief compliance officer, and you're like, oh my God, that title is huge. I would say, take a step back, right? Usually,
they want you to take
if you're going in over
somebody.
your skis, they want you for that position to be in over your skis because they want someone responsible when it breaks down. Second, I think the most important thing is make sure you're financially stable. Because I think the worst decisions we make, especially in crypto and compliance and our jobs, is we need to rely on that job and that money, which is usually higher when you're walking into a pretty bad toxic relationship with a company. They pay a lot, right? Like, and that's why I joke. Like, a lot of people talk about Binance, and their employees probably just have to wipe their tears with the paycheck because they're getting paid 3, 4 times more than the market salary. You know you're going to deal with some shit. Like, I think people get confused. You know it's going to be a toxic environment for maybe you. But like 20 years ago when I was working, if I could work at Binance versus doing debt collections, like Binance every day of the week. So it just depends on who you are as a person. But when I say when you're financially sound and living underneath your means, you're able to walk away from some of the toxic situations. I think the worst decisions for people that are in a
You're
crypto
saying
company and
you're
for the
less
people trying
morally
to get into
inclined.
crypto is that they're forced to take these jobs or stay in these jobs that they don't like because they're not financially stable. And then when, Kraken or any other exchange lays off 11% of their staff, you're like messaging everyone saying that you have a house mortgage to pay. Like, I don't care. Unfortunately, like, it's sad that you lost your job. I also don't care, just like you didn't care when you were working about the person trying to get into the industry. So I think making sure that you're financially stable, building a network of people that are heavily in crypto compliance and have been there for a long time. So like these boutique consultancies, I would be like working closely with them because they're probably going to be doing the overall risk assessment and stuff. But they've seen 100 crypto companies where you're only working at one and haven't seen very many, leveraging consultancies, especially the boutique ones that have seen lots of things, because I think they're going to have more context than anyone else in the industry.
Yeah.
You're like DLT
No, I'm,
law.
I'm saying that. Yeah, I happen to know one of
The
those.
DLT
What?
law banner just goes across the screen.
Exactly.
But it's true, right?
Ha-
But it's true. Your company, your organization has seen so much.
Dude,
Why am I
I
going to try
can't
and
tell
figure out
you.
everything myself? It's like I'm operational. I should be. I'm going to you. You're dividing. You build a race car. I'm just a driver now, but I still need the manual. I still need to know what you have. You have the experience of
Yeah,
bringing hundreds or building 100 cars. It's and if I've only driven one car, I'm only going to know how that car turns and the brakes. I think a lot of people try to go into these situations like, oh, I'll figure it out as I go along. It's a lot easier to do that if you have expertise and you can spend some of that money and getting really good legal counsel, boutique consultancies, just because they've seen so much. They already know the pitfalls you're going to go into way before you ever seen them.
yeah. And also, we would know what things should look like behind the hood. You're coming in, you're like, okay, these are all the processes that I want to have. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with, unfortunately, some of them are clients that are complete mess. They hire somebody to come and, be in charge of compliance, but really to be the fall guy, like you
Yeah,
said. And then he or she is saying, okay, like, I'm trying to get all these processes in place and they're ignoring me. Fall guy. Okay.
all guy.
So like either, take your money and your integrity and run, or, put an ultimatum on the table. Like, I'm the compliance guy. These, it's my way or the highway, right? Like, compliance people need to understand that they are the boss of the boss people. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, we bring you in so that you could be a pain in our ass, but really we bring you in because the bank is telling us, or some other financial authority or license or licensing regime is telling us you need to have these compliance people. So people generally feel that their arm is being twisted, and then unfortunately, compliance could sometimes be a boon to business, but it's a necessary boon, because if you want to get to where you want to get to, and you don't want to end up in jail, then like you really got to listen to your compliance people. So I guess my 2 cents to our compliance audience out there is like, stand your ground. It's sometimes unpleasant, but you got to stand your ground.
And the red flags are there. Like we used to work as recruiters. Like I've done everything in the compliance industry. And obviously when you're like uniquely with crypto compliance, we were like, hey, can you help me find people? And what we get is a lot of companies are like, hey, we need somebody by tomorrow. I'm like, sure, send me the job description. Oh, we don't have time to do a job description. Just give me someone that has Chainalysis experience. Like if you're going into that scenario, you already know they don't have time to do a job description, or they want you to do all the jobs. Like that red flag is clear as day. And as I said, if you're financially safe and stable, you're like, oh, that doesn't sound for me. But if you need a job tomorrow because you haven't balanced out or lived way over your means, then that's where you get yourselves in very tricky situations.
Yeah.
And I think you can see the writing on the wall a lot of the times. And I think the only thing worse than being a fall guy is a company that doesn't really know what they need, and you kind of know more than them. That's even more worrisome, because like they're hoping that you're bringing in that insight and knowledge. And if you don't know, if you're copying and pasting your policies and procedures from that bank you used to work at and just, changing a couple words, or worse yet, just using AI to generate you a policies and procedure, you're going to get yourself in so much trouble. Not only the organization, but the reputation. Everyone knows who took the bag to kind of like, phone it in the compliance lens. And to your point, though, it's a hard thing. Compliance should be used as like not as a disruptor, should be used as leverage. I remember early on, if you remember Kevin O'Leary before he got into crypto, and he was like telling
Sure.
Anthony Pompilano, I demand you not, invest all your money in Bitcoin. He used the word compliance like 50 times in one interview, because he knew that nothing is going to happen until there's regulation and compliance with that regulation. And now he owns WonderFi and like has his part in all these other things. But it's like the smart people know that compliance is an advantage, and if you don't have it, you're not going to get the big deals. There's a reason why Coinbase was named on like 90% of ETFs, is because they focus on compliance. They started with compliance even before the regulations were there, and now they're trusted when it comes to big institutional dollars. That's a long-term play for them. They dealt with a lot of lawsuits before they got to that point, but they knew that compliance would be the advantage in the long run. And if you're not at a company that realizes that, I think you're going to be in a tough situation.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, 100%. I agree with everything you said. The unfortunate reality is, and this is also something that I see, you're an early stage startup in the crypto industry. You build something really freaking cool, and unfortunately, like, you can't afford compliance, because compliance is expensive, right? I've, more often than not, introduced compliance teams, or external compliance service providers to early stage founders, and I'm like, you need this, because like if you're going to scale to where you want to get to, one hack, one sanctioned wallet will, you'll lose your entire payment processing capabilities, and you won't be able to do anything. You'll be dead in the water. But they can't put their hands in their pocket and pay what essentially are very, very, very high entrance fees to becoming a compliant company. So like, what do you suggest in those situations?
A law firm. No, again, I'm not just saying that to like highlight DLT
No,
law,
it's
but
not.
like
It's not even legal. It's compliance, right? It's like building out the internal policies, and build and actually implementing those policies, and being able to screen every wallet. And what happens? It's not only like a thought process; it's an implementation as well.
I say legal because like usually like general counsel
they go
and
hand in
law
hand.
firms are the first compliance hire, right? It's usually, you never see a compliance officer, you usually see general counsel, and it goes from there. We want to make sure what's offsides and what's not offsides. I think to answer your question, what I would do is, if I'm a small startup, like there's a company that we work with, client AML bot. They do kind of everything, right? You're a one-stop shop for compliance. But they realize, like startup founders, exactly what you said. They don't have the money to invest in a huge team, but they also need to get this, MVP, this product off, off the ground and into the market. And companies like that, they can do blockchain analytics, they can do KYC checks, they can do all the things that are going to keep you from getting in trouble early on, and then be able to scale with your company. Then when you get to a certain threshold, you either scale with that company, or you need regulatory insurance. You're like, well, I need the top 3 blockchain analytics companies. I need like Chainalysis, and know that like Chainalysis, Elliptic, TRM Labs. But I think off the bat, you try to find a blockchain analytics company, especially if you're transacting on the blockchain. That's the biggest thing you have to worry about, because blockchain investigations are real time. So if you're receiving funds from a sanctioned address, you need, like, the regulators are seeing that in real time. So you need someone internally and the tools internally to see that in real time. Because to your point, you receive enough money from DPRK, the U.S. government, and any of their friends
Not even
around the world
money.
are coming
You
after you to shut
$1,
you down.
$1, and you're screwed. Like, that's it. You touch it. It's touch and go. You touch once, you're finished.
But if you're a bank and John Doe's a sanctioned person, the regulators can't see that in real time. So you have the benefit of time to do your investigations and cross. In crypto, you see that instantly. And it's not just the regulators watching, it's crypto Twitter's watching too. And they're ringing the alarm. That's how FTX went down. It wasn't because like regulators are like, hey, what's happening here? it was crypto Twitter that was like, hey, they're moving funds in a certain way, and this token is worthless. So like you have the whole industry watching. So that's why you need something in place that can at least do transaction monitoring, I think, at the lowest part of the scale to make sure you're not, caught red-handed.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about where the industry is and where it's going. Like right now, I guess since October, but like more drastically the last 6 weeks, there is blood in the streets. Like really, like I always say that the price of Bitcoin is an indication of like the how everybody's balance sheet is looking, but also just the general sentiments. And now like it is plummeted, and we're starting to feel the effects to a certain extent. People are still asking, "Are we in a bear? Are we not?" I think we're most definitely in a bear. I don't
It's
know how
going to
long it's going to be
zero.
for.
We told you it's going to zero.
I have no qualms about that. From like an investor perspective, I'm sure that within a year, Bitcoin is back north of 120. But I've seen enough cycles to know how it goes. But regardless, it's going to be a rough period. What are your thoughts on the industry currently, from a market perspective, from a regulatory standpoint? Like, where do you see us going in the next 6 months?
It's funny. I was just talking on a podcast with Alex from Nansen, which who does blockchain intelligence, like
Yeah,
trading
sure, I know
platform.
Nance.
Um, and he even said the same thing I say to people. It's just a weird market because we got all the things we beg for: institutional adoption, ETF, like we got all the things, but the market's still down and the retail market's a bloodbath. So it's one of the few markets where you got what you wanted, but yet we're still not we're in the point where we are. And it's like certain parts of the market are doing well, like staking should do well, but it's not doing well. So I think there's a lot of pivoting. I think those are building infrastructure. We always say the builders always do good in these markets. I like these markets when the price is low and you don't have as much noise and you can just like create content and do things. But when the market goes up, like everybody's like, I told you, look at these crypto
Nobody's
markets, look at
responding to
my
your DMs.
holdings. Yeah, so I think it's one of those weird markets. Like my philosophy is I thrive in chaos because I think that's the only time, not the only time, but that's when you see oversized gains. So that's when a lot of the marketing budgets are going to be cut to zero, but there's also going to be a lot of companies that are going to overpay because there isn't that many people talking about, content, and all the content creators are now in AI. So it's like you're going to see the biggest gains during times where there's the most chaos. So I kind of thrive. I love a little chaos. I think it's good for any market to have chaos. Markets should be unpredictable because it's based on people's behavior, and people are unpredictable.
Yeah,
So I think this is good. I think when you've been through a couple markets, you stop even looking at because like price doesn't correlate to your revenue usually. Uh, but I do feel it. Obviously, a lot of our clients are in crypto, and their belts are probably tight, a little strapped. Like they get a little
like,
bit
can I really
pissier
afford a podcast right
than
now?
normal, right? The content doesn't look as juicy to them all of a sudden when Trump had the markets going to 120. So you take a lot more arrows when
Yeah,
things aren't going well overall. So you just have to you get used to it. I think from a marketing and PR is always the first thing to go. I built my agency in 2022, which was terrible. It's right after the FTX, during the FTX collapse. It was probably the worst time. But like you just don't notice those things because like it's crypto. It always feels bad
yeah,
at some point for some reason.
yeah. It's interesting because there are opportunities during these markets as well. Like yesterday, I spoke to a client, or a prospective client that kind of had ghosted us for a long time, and then he came back yesterday and he's like, "Now I'm ready to go." I'm like, "Now you're ready to go? Like everybody else is like hunkering down. Now you're ready to go?" He said, "Yeah,
Exactly.
like a few months ago when I reached out to people, like nobody was responding to me." He's like, "Now when the markets are dead, people are like eager for any opportunity. So like people who are too busy to respond to you or didn't have time for you last month, now we'll take anybody's call." So I'm taking advantage of that and I'm going all in, and I'm going to, forge partnerships that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to forge. So there's definitely opportunities now as well. And, we got to all look to see where they are and try and seize them. But,
Yeah, I remember trying to reach Alex like 8 months ago. Couldn't get in touch with Alex. Couldn't do no podcast.
boom.
Like, look who comes crawling back. No, I'm just joking. He's such a great guy. But it's funny though. Like, yeah, like when times are down, it's like, hey, I have time to do a podcast. But when you're building and there's revenue and there's partnerships, it's hard to like. There's so much noise in the industry, and you're so busy trying to take every opportunity because you don't know when the next opportunity is going to come.
Yeah.
That's what I love about crypto is like you can never be too high or too low because things change tomorrow. one day you're a vendor selling blockchain analytics, the next day you're working at an exchange and everyone's knocking down your door to sell you products.
Yeah,
And but that's the same person that you pumped 2 months ago because you're all high and mighty. And I love that about crypto because like
yeah,
really, if you're kind and you're really shining the light on people, you're gonna benefit in any market.
yeah. I don't know if you saw Beeple's tweet from today. You know Beeple, the artist.
I know people,
So
but I didn't see his tweet.
so I don't know, like maybe how often he does these things, that he produces these like beautiful generated arts that are usually reflective of politics
Yeah.
or otherwise. So he did one today. It was I guess like making fun of ETH Denver, which is going on now or just finished. And it was basically like the entire the conference venue, and then like all these like wolves like eating basically everybody homeless, and like it's just like really like perhaps reflective on like what everybody's sentiments are right now. We travel frequently, globally, my partner and I, to most of the top conferences. Made a decision not to go to this one. Wasn't from a market standpoint, it was just more like we wanted to spend some time with our wives and kids after traveling quite a bit over the last few months. But you see this meme, and I'll share it when I publish the episode, and it's just like it looks dark. So I'm kind of happy I'm not in Denver right now. But hopefully the market picks up and everybody is still left standing. They always say that when the tide comes in, you see who's swimming naked. So whoever's swimming naked is probably not going to make it. But I guess us service providers, if we been through this before, we'll make it through.
Yeah, we're always looking to catch a wave, right? And that's why, like, when I tell people, like, live underneath your means, because, like, I've seen where hiring managers had to pay whatever the person want. I remember lawyers and security law and had crypto experience in Canada, like throwing out numbers that didn't even make sense, but they had the ability to. But then, like, okay, when they shut down that project 2 months from now, like, okay, like that 450,000 you were getting turns into like, well, now you have to go back to a $250,000 paycheck. So never count your Lambos.
Never count your Lambos. True that. Okay. I promised you that I would give you a few minutes to ask me questions, even though I don't usually ever do that. But I'm gonna let you turn the tables and grill me for a minute.
I just want to know, like, what do you see? Like, who are the clients? Because I think you get an interesting perspective. People are either coming to you when they're in trouble, when they're looking to grow, when they're looking to enter the market. So you see it from all sides. You see the shiesty players are like, tell me the loopholes. You see the people are like, hey, we really care about compliance. Build me a long-term plan. What has been the trend, like maybe over the last year? Because you've probably seen two different markets. What has been the trend? What do you see?
Yeah. So there's definitely been a big shift. The biggest shift, I think, is post Trump being elected. I think, it was America, I guess like both of us sit kind of on the sidelines. Geographically, Israel is a little bit farther from the US, but I guess like economically and culturally, we're very close. And uh, under the SEC under Gensler was, just hostile towards crypto and crypto regulation, and it was not a fun time to be building in the industry. Basically, everybody was looking to build as far away as possible from the US. So, like, if you were a US founder, you wanted to do everything offshore. If you had nothing to do with the US, you wanted to make sure that you weren't, God forbid, being exposed to US consumers. And so, you know, since Trump's election, there's been a shift. Like, people are still not looking to necessarily incorporate within the US, but are kind of like checking the temperature of the waters, and definitely are more keen to be involved in US economies and exposed to US consumers. It's a huge freaking economy. Like, it's unfortunate that US consumers were largely left out um, from the party until now. So definitely like a shift towards the US. But people don't really come to us when they're in trouble. Like, we don't litigate ever. I've never been in court in all my years as a lawyer. Um, People come to us when they're looking to build, and they want to make sure that they, our motto is like build responsibly. So they want to they say, I've got this great idea. I think I can make a ton of money. I don't want to get there and then somebody tell me like either you did this all wrong, you're going to jail, or you did this all wrong in order to do it right. Like you basically need to change your whole business model. It's going to cost you a year of developments and $1 million. So we
Basically, was that the shape shift model?
yeah, something to that extent. So we kind of we build a roadmap. Okay. Ideally, they act on the roadmap from day one. Like I said, a lot of times early stage founders can't afford compliance the way that they need to. So the next best thing is what we do is we say, okay, well, well, this is what you can do, until this stage. And once you get to here, then you either need a license or you need to just keep it there. So we really just try and kind of give them as much information as possible to allow them to scale in a responsible manner. Um,
How hard is
and
that with like stable coins where some of these payment service providers go from like $1 million in transaction volume to $50 million overnight?
so again, if you know where you're going, it's all good. Some people have, there's a bullish scenario and a bearish scenario. We try to
Hmm,
prepare for all things.
that's cool.
Um, so we we really have a very unique model. We, you know, operate only within the crypto sector, and we do it everywhere in the world. So it does, like you said, give us like a very unique perspective on the industry and on the global regulatory environment generally. It's also a lot of fun. Really,
I
it's a lot
love
of
that.
fun. Like people always tell me when I speak to non crypto people, and they're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a lawyer." Oh, what kind of law do you deal with? Crypto law. There is no such thing as crypto law. There's no laws in crypto, right? There's no regulation in crypto. And I'm always like, well, dude, you have no idea, right? Like on the contrary, like all emerging tech has both existing regulatory frameworks
Right.
that are applicable, because there's a close nexus between whatever it is that you're proposing to do and what already, what regulation already exists. And then there's evolving and emerging regulation, like, you know, the regulators unfortunately never take some time to catch up with technology, but the minute that AI was a thing, the minute that crypto was a thing, you had regulators struggling to figure out, okay, how am I gonna regulate this? And so
Yeah.
like if you
And
want
they
to
have to move
build,
quicker now. Before, like crypto took like 10 years before they like FATF really got involved. But now they're already talking about AI regulate. Like they know they have to move quicker than
so
they
even still,
have in the
like
past.
if you're looking to build a long-term vision, then you need to anticipate what regulation is going to look like to a certain extent, and you need to build that into your budget and to your timeline. And so that's kind of like what we do. And yeah,
I love it. Can I ask one more question? Where,
please.
like, AI is always taking over jobs. I remember tech was supposed to take your law jobs long time ago. Remember, like, robo lawyers and all that good stuff, just like they had robo advisors. Where are you utilizing AI, and how do you build like a AI proof, not maybe AI proof business, but how do you leverage AI so it's not completely putting you out of business and people are just, searching on ChatGPT, like, create a policy and procedures for my business? And what are
uh
the risks in that? Like, I know
yeah,
it's not the
it's like,
scary risk, but what are the like actual things that you've seen where people have come to you and you're like, you're probably going to need to do more than that? Because like ChatGPT can feel like it, it knows what it's talking about. I can build my whole contract around this.
yeah. So it's an excellent question. There's like a few pieces to that. I'll go one by one. So in terms of like what am I doing to like use AI to better myself, everything. Like I am using every AI that I can, like as a legal counsel, to make myself better, to make myself faster, to double check my work, whatever. Obviously, like I'm not using the same tools that other people are using, but there are a lot of really phenomenal AI tools for lawyers. And I'm very keen on trying all of them to see, at the beginning, because I operate at the intersection of like emerging tech, I like technology. I'm always interested in new things that are coming out. And at the beginning, when AI started to become so good, so I said, yeah, AI is not going to replace us, but people who use AI will replace people who don't. And so I was very keen to use AI as much as I can. I don't say that anymore. I do think that AI may replace us, all of us. It's a very like doom and gloom outlook, but like it's not an impossibility. So I don't know. You asked if I can create an AI proof company. I don't think there's any such thing anymore. I think in 10 years, maybe in 5 years or even 3 years, right? Look how fast AI is developed. I think we could all be redundant. It's possible. Okay. And it's something that I think about every minute of the day, and I'm constantly thinking of like what other things I could do. Um, but on the flip side, I spoke to a client yesterday who has an AI company, and I was telling him about my doom and gloom, and he's like, "Dude, I don't pay you to like draft me contracts. Like, I mean, like, it's nice. I like that you do that, but I could use Gemini or ChatGPT for that, and it does a decent job today, and it's gonna do an even more decent job tomorrow, and it's scaling really quickly." He's like, I pay you for these conversations that we're having, like for the personal touch. Now, to say that AI can't replace that either, it might. I just saw this advertisement on X the other day for this AI company that does like call centers, and they're like, listen to these voices and like tell me if you think any of them are AI. And they sounded amazing, 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 amazing. So maybe like somebody will make an AI, or I'll make an AI of myself that could give that personal touch, those conversations. And it's freaky, but like it's not an impossibility at all. Okay. I was recently in Abu Dhabi and I got into like an autonomous Uber, and the car drove me by itself back to my hotel. Like, I really think we're going in that direction. It'll be all robots and AI, and they'll do everything. So I don't think you can make something that's AI proof, but you got to stay ahead of the game, So trying to use all these tools, trying to be as efficient as possible, thinking of, other things, maybe thinking of selling my body for money, or my organs, just
I don't think
as
that's not AI proof, but people have been doing that for a long time.
but yeah, it's a crazy, scary world that we live in. I don't know.
I
I
love
hope
that.
that
I was
wasn't
listening
too
to
like dark of an answer for you, but
No,
um,
I was listening to a podcast, My First Million with Sean Purry, and he talked about like productivity is a limit. Like it's going to be about creativity versus productivity because AI can produce everything now. It's going to be that creativity that's going to do well in this industry. And that's why I love the position that both of us are in because we're always trying to create something new. And I think that creativity will be the distinguisher because I don't think AI will be creative, but like it's not going to have context. And I think that when the person says like I'm coming to you for the conversation, it's the context because like you have certain
yeah,
things that AI can do a summary, but they're not going to know how this piece fits into that piece because they're
they
based on
might.
your
It
conversations
might.
that you've had, not based on what's out there in the world.
Yeah, but think it sits on everything. So at some point, it'll sit on all of our conversations, on our WhatsApps, on our Telegrams, on our phone calls, and it will just be able to be me, but better. It will. Like that capability already exists. It's just we just don't plug it into everything. But once it
That's true.
is, because it'll be inevitable, it will be better than us. We just have to hope that it's kind to us.
It's pretty cool. Like I just talk to it like, hey, I'm trying to do this with the business, and it just comes up with like random ideas. And I'm like, yo, this is great. But at the end of the day, it's execution, right? It can come up with as many ideas. Like there's all the intelligence in the world is already here. It's just bringing ourselves to a level of awareness to be able to go execute on it.
Yeah. On that very dark note, Stephen, this has been great, man. For people who are living under a rock and have never heard of you before, and now have heard a hell of a lot more about you, what is the best way to engage with your content outside of LinkedIn, which we already said? And I just, for the benefit of everybody listening, I want you to know that it's Stephen with a PH, okay? And Sargeant is Sargeant. Obviously, you'll see his name spelled out in the show notes and in the episode art and everything. But I know that I always get confused with Stephen and Steven. So
Yeah,
it
because
is
of
Stephen
Steph
with a
Steph
PH.
Curry ruined it for all Stevens around the world. I do have a little emoji plug that helps people when they pull up my name. LinkedIn is still the best place to reach me, to be quite honest. If for those that are looking to get into crypto compliance investigation seriously, we do have a small community of like less than 10 people where I can actually devote my attention every day. I go in there, try to provide alpha, job opportunities, information, and just like people that are really ambitious. I love working with them. And it's kind of hard to do that on LinkedIn with so many messages. But LinkedIn's obviously the best place to reach me and engage with any content. And I do have an AI chatbot that I've created for myself based on all my content. So if you have a question, and someone messaged me yesterday, like I had a question, I thought it was too stupid to ask you. I asked for AI chatbot. I feel so much better now. So I do have an AI chatbot where you can, leverage my content. Keeps a little bit
Cool.
of spiciness that I have in my content as well. That's what I was really scared. Now I'm really scared is I can get my sarcasm better than me. So you're probably right. It's about to take over the world.
Hell yeah. All right. Very cool. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Dude, that was fun. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Code. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, and to tune in again next week for more fun and insightful conversation.